And now, direct from Las Vegas.
Welcome to Football Forecast Weekly. Each week, your host, Trip Mitchell, will introduce you to the top handicapper in Vegas, Dennis Tobler, and one of the top sportscasters in the U.S., Fred Wallen.
Today's edition of Football Forecast Weekly is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. For the best in sports betting, go to MyBookie.ag, and you can win just like Dennis, Fred, and me.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Football Forecast Weekly. My name is Dennis Tobler, and I'll be standing in this week for Trip Mitchell, who's out on medical leave. It's next man up on Football Forecast Weekly, but I have with me Fred Wallen and myself. We will dissect these football games and give you the winners as we do each and every week. And now I want to introduce you to one of the smartest handicappers and sports analysis guys in the country, as well as the best sports anchor or sports host on the radio, Mr. Fred Wallen. Fred, how are you today?
I think we're all getting older. I got to tell you that. And Tripp's, of course, the oldest of the three. So he's out this week. I'm sure he'll be back next week. My career is sort of interesting in that I started calling talk shows, not sports talk shows, because there weren't any when we were kids. It was just political talk shows, Joe Pine and people like that, nationally and in Southern California. And maybe at the age of 13 or 14. In fact, the man who owned Midnight on KBC radio in Los Angeles, Steve Allison, I became friends with his producer. She invited me down to do an hour 5 or 6 times when I was 13 or 14. And my dad or mom would drive me to KBC radio, and I would do the show. So I got into this business very, very young. I was a nut. I tried to DX radio stations, try to get them from Salt Lake City, from Corvallis, from Portland, Oregon, from Arizona, from New Mexico. And sometimes the middle of the night, Dennis, you might remember this, when there were very few stations still on the air, I actually got KMOX a couple of times from St. Louis, which is impossible, but I got it. And one night when KMPC 710 went off the air, I got one of the stations from Chicago. It was like I was in heaven. So radio has been my thing since the age of 10, 11, or 12.
I have to say the same thing. I had a transistor radio, and I listened to the ball games when I lived in the Midwest as a young man, all over the country. And at night I could tune it in and sometimes get Philadelphia, sometimes get the West, but it was great. And I have to say, you on Sports Overnight America program, you are a great talent on that show. It's every Friday and Saturday night on Sirius XM and heard around the country on all stations. So when Fred's on, you want to make sure you pay close attention. And Fred's on every Friday and Saturday night. And I'm going to be his guest this week, so we most definitely want you to listen in on Sirius XM, and we'll give you the details at the end of the show. Okay, I think it's time to talk a little football. What do you think?
That's a good idea.
All right, I noticed the first thing that popped into my head this week is we've got 4 teams that are laying double digits this weekend on a shortened bye-week schedule. So I thought we'd take these games one at a time and see if any of the underdogs stand a chance. The first game on the board is the Washington football team at Green Bay to take on the revamped Packers. Line opened at 7.5, went to 9.5. It's 10 this morning. It'll be 10. So that's double digits. I know you hate those kind of games. That's why I decided we'd throw out the 4 big favorites to start with and get them out of the way for you.
I think of the 4, this one has a shot at Green Bay covering based on the fact that, Rodgers, since the first game, has been nearly perfect. He's been unbelievable. He's so unbelievable that if he's forgotten somebody one game, he'll go to him certainly the next. Like Valdez caught 3 or 4 passes last week after being shut out the week before. So it's not even a question of one guy getting open. Any of them get open, and all of them get open, and he'll find them. And so this is the one I think that might cover. And also, David Mills, I saw him play at Stanford a year and a half. Not a bad quarterback. It's just that he doesn't have a lot of talent around him, and throws a lot of lollipops up there. So this is the game. And also, I think Green Bay right now, and people may not believe this, based on some of the analytics, 5th-rated defense in the National Football League. So they might hold Houston down. So this is the one I think that where Rodgers may throw 3 or 4 touchdown passes, and maybe they'll win 31-7 or something like that.
Well, I agree with you on it too. I mean, there's no way I would take Washington plus the points in this situation. It looks like Green Bay has put it all together, and yeah, they have a decent defense. Washington, I don't think can score. I mean, they've scored a few times this year, but they just have way too many problems. I see an easy Green Bay win here, and I think the public's going to jump on it too.
You know, I just made a mistake. I thought I was using Houston, Heineke for Washington, and of course he's been up and down. But that's the one.
I knew what you meant.
But I want the people out there to understand that we're old guys. Once in a while we'll make a blunder. But Washington, of course, has won a couple of times. And Heineke is not a bad quarterback. He's just up and down. So again, I think Rodgers may throw 3 or 4 touchdown passes, and I think they might cover the spread. But it's not a game that personally I'd call my bookie or call one of the websites and wager on, because I will not. If you give up double digits in the National Football League, you're going to lose between 2 out of 3 times and 3 out of 4 times, like 70% of the time. So I learned that a long time ago, and I won't be burnt again. But this is of the 4, because Rodgers is playing so well. This is the one I think that would have the best shot of covering a double-digit spread.
Well, I don't know about the best shot, but I do agree with you on Green Bay and the points. The next one here is one you can explain to us very well, because it's the Detroit Lions on the road to play the Rams. And you, of all people, know the fabulous trade of quarterbacks between these two teams. So you can explain a little bit about that. And then I hate to tell you this, but the line opened at 13.5. It's now 16. So it may be 17 by game time in the NFL. So there you have it, the Rams minus 16.
I think Jared Goff might have a good game. He better have a good game, or he may not be starting next week. Coach Campbell has indicated, you know, when you're up there doing a media conference and you mention the quarterback out there, you're sort of putting him out there alone. So it's up to Goff to have a good game. And I just have a hunch he'll play pretty well. So it might be a high scoring game. But again, if you're going to get 15, 16 or 17 points, no, never. And it just, you're going to lose if you do that most of the time in the National Football League. You know, when the trade was, you got to understand, folks, they gave up 2 number 1s to get Goff, and they gave up 2 number 1s to get rid of Goff. So they've given up 4 number 1 picks, the Rams have, for Stafford. And Stafford's a good quarterback. He's played well, but Goff in the past has played well. He got into the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Stafford's bigger, but Goff was a fine quarterback at Cal. But again, I think Goff will play well here back at home. And I also think McVay sort of feels guilty. If you've been reading what he's been saying this week, he sort of didn't treat Goff too well at the end. And Goff had no idea that the trade was going to be made, and McVay had never warned him. So maybe he'll back off a little bit too. So the Rams will win, but I think Goff might play well.
Yeah, I might be in your corner on this one. As we remember back, Detroit lost 2 games on last-second field goals. And then last week, they came out dead as a board against Cincinnati at home when everybody thought they might have a chance. Well, the fact of the matter is they may have been looking ahead. At least Goff may have been looking ahead, because this is a big game between these 2 quarterbacks. And I look for the Rams to air it out big. But when you're talking about 16 or 17 points in the NFL, that's a ton of points. The interesting fact here, the total is 50. So, you know, what does it have to be, 40-10 or something like that to cover the line? It just sounds a little bit outrageous. So here again, I'm with you on the betting side of this, but I'm in a situation where I have to pick 5 games a week for 2 separate contests here in Las Vegas, shooting for the $1 million prizes. So this kind of a card is just a influx situation for a guy like me. What do you bet? What do you put on the contest? What do you stay away from? And when you got 4 or 5 big favorites, it makes it that much harder. Okay, let's head on down. We know that's the quarterback battle there, and they'll talk about that all week. Whoever wins that Rams game and has the best quarterback statistics. But it's interesting what you said about the coach of the Rams, because if he does have a little sympathy for Goff, that might make a little difference. Otherwise, the other quarterback wants to take it and throw it away, win by 40. So it's a tough game to call, and I'm with you on that one. Here's another one we may agree on. I'm not sure. The Houston Texans, probably the last team in the league, is at Arizona this week, playing the hottest team and the only undefeated team left in the NFL, in the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Kyler Murray last week outplayed his counterpart from Oklahoma. I can't even think of his name. Help me out. Who's the quarterback of the Browns?
Mayfield.
Mayfield. So we've got two Heisman Trophy winning Oklahoma quarterbacks playing last week, and Mayfield gets beat at home tremendously bad by Kyrie Murray. Okay, Murray. Talk about senior moments here. I want to know why all these guys are named Kyrie, and I want to know why they're all named Jared or Jared. That's just, it must have been the generation. So anyway, back to the game. Look, the Arizona Cardinals defense has got everybody buffaloed. They're not big. They don't play in formation, and they run all over the field. So that's what's kind of causing the havoc for these other teams. And Mayfield couldn't play with them, couldn't even keep up with them. I listened to Murray on the TV this morning, and he is exuding confidence. He just says that his team, all of them are on the same page. They've been a year and a half working on trying to get to the same page. And now it's just fun in that locker room because offense, defense, everybody's after the same thing. When you have a team like that playing that well and can win by 2-3 touchdowns on the road, you've got some kind of a thing going on. And the Cardinals here's one for you, Fred. Opened at 14.5, immediately jumped to 17, and now it's 18.5.
I play fantasy, and like I mentioned about the Packers, he's got so many weapons. Murray does that. I think this will be the week for Green. Kirk caught last week. Hopkins caught last week. Green again for 2 weeks in a row has almost been forgotten. This is the week because they're going to be way out in front and they're going to have some fun with it, I think. Green might catch a touchdown or two if you're playing fantasy, folks. But 18.5 is way too many for yours truly.
Well, I'm not going to bet the game at 18.5, but Arizona's going to cover the 18. 28-10 is 18. They'll score 40 against Houston. Houston cannot score. We've tried to give them some credit along the way this year, but we've simply been stabbed in the back every time we say anything good about them. So I think in this situation, Arizona's going to blow them away. And by the way, folks, in these kind of situations, when you take these kind of games in contest plays and you lose them, you're out of the contest because most people don't touch them. They're like Fred. They're well-educated, well-experienced, and they know to go somewhere else. Okay, the final team that's favored by double digits, and you might expect this, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 10.5 point they opened. They're now 13 against the Chicago Bears, and Tampa Bay's at home, and they just seem to keep on rolling.
I think a lot of this has to do if it's the good fields or the bad fields. If it's the good fields, Chicago probably can play this close. If it's the bad fields, they got no shot because, again, Brady's got so many weapons as wide receiver that it's hard to believe. And also Fournette's running so hard now that Chicago does not have a bad defense, but Fournette's playing better than we thought he might at this point of the season. And again, the wide receivers are everywhere. The addition of Antonio Brown certainly has helped Brady. Brady's very tight with him. So he's going to catch some passes. There's no question. The other two certainly are, of course. So it depends on Fields. He's been up and down at Ohio State. I mean, he's had some down moments too, but mostly all up at Ohio State. But this is the NFL. So again, let's see what happens. Tampa's defense maybe be slightly relaxed because it is the Bears and they're supposed to win by 2 touchdowns. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think in this game, there's a possibility of a cover here. I think 13 is too many points. Tampa Bay really is just coasting along. They have a great defense, but the Bears did come into Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago and beat the Raiders straight up. And then the Raiders go to Denver and knock off their conference foe the next week. So Chicago is capable of it because they held the Raiders to 2 field goals. So, or 3. So if they play a tough defense and they go down there, and I don't blame Fields as much as I blame the coach. The coach has got to set some plays up that's designed for his personnel. And I feel sorry for that Fields actually, because sometimes he's walking off the field and I know he wants to shake his head and go, oh my God, but he doesn't do it. He does have some good poise. And I do think he will be a quarterback, but we're talking about different quarterbacks always too. Look at the Kyler Murrays and the Fields and all of them coming up as compared to Ben and Tom Brady and them. You know, there's 2 different kinds of quarterbacks. You got to use your quarterbacks in your offensive system that will complement your offensive system. And I don't think the coach for the Bears quite has that down yet. But anyway, 13 points here on the road. We're going to both go with the Bears and take it and see what happens. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back and finish off this NFL card right after this short break.
Get the latest breaking news in the sports betting world. MyBookie monitors and releases information pertaining to online sportsbooks and professional football. The good as well as the bad.
Welcome back to Football Forecast Weekly, everyone. My name is Dennis Tobler. I'm here with Fred Wallen, and we're dissecting this weekend's NFL games for you. We started with the top 4 double-digit favorites and got a few laughs along the way on those. So let's get down to the serious games now. First one on the board is the Carolina Panthers on the road to take on the Giants, the hapless Giants. Carolina's a 2.5-point favorite, and Manfred, they started the year 3-0, and since then they've just been a dump.
Well, McCaffrey thought he's going to come back 2 weeks ago. Then he thought, and I thought he's going to come back last week. Now he's on IR for 3 weeks. So that makes a major difference, not having one of the best running backs and all-around players in the league. But 2.5 is a small enough number. Darnold's going to have a big game. Now, again, you know, not the Jets here, the Giants, but it's sort of back home where he was for 3 years. I think he's going to have a big game against a team like the Giants who, again, injuries. Barkley's not going to play. Galladay's not going to play. So their best 2 possibilities on offense aren't going to be there. I think Carolina will cover the 2.5-point spread.
Okay, I don't know what's in the air today, but I agree with you. I'm going to add something to this, and that is the total on this game started at 44.5, and probably because of the injuries, it's down to 43. I expect it to go down more before game time. But you're absolutely right about the Giants. Not only are they hurt, but they're in deep trouble when it comes to defense. And Carolina has played, even without McCaffrey, well enough to win some of these games. Some bad breaks along the way, but the Carolina defense will be the difference here. They'll hold New York way down, and they should score enough to cover the points. I'm going to take Carolina in this one too and lay the 2.5 points. So let's move on down to another classic game featuring a New York team, the New York Jets versus the New England Patriots. The Patriots opened at 7, moved to 7.5. How do you see it, Fred? Jets
won't win. So if you want to bet the money line on the Patriots, go right away. But 7.5, Mac Jones had a big game in the loss. Sometimes after those, you have a bit of a letdown. And again, in their heads, it's the Jets. So I think the Patriots will find a way to win. I don't see Belichick going 2-5. So, but again, I'm not giving 7.5, a team that may or may not be totally up for this game, but the money line, the Pats will win.
Okay, I agree with you on that. And I think I agree all the way around. 7.5 is too many points for the New England Patriots. The Jets actually have a chance in this one. New England gave it everything they had last week. And I have to give them credit. They played very well. But I'm with you on the quarterback and everything else. And I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to take the Jets plus 7.5 here just because I think it's going to be a low scoring game. 42 is the total. I mean, it's going to take a lot to cover 8 to be a winner on the Patriots. So I'm going to take the Jets plus the 7.5 too. Okay, let's move on down to the Miami Dolphins and the Atlanta Falcons. And I seem to find now the very worst teams in the league to throw at you. After the best teams in double digits, I'm throwing the worst ones at you. The Falcons, 2 weeks back from London. Miami back from London this last weekend. Miami on the week ahead line was a 2.5-point favorite. But after everything shook out over the last 2 weeks, Atlanta opened as a 1-point favorite. And now the Falcons are 2.5 points on the road. And we know that the Dolphins are in injury-prone problems too. But what do you think of this one? Can Matty Ice pull it off on the road, laying 2.5?
Well, the first thing you'd think of, Miami lost last week to a team that can't win, except they did. So that's the first thing. The second thing, Falcons aren't much better. So Fred's passing on this game, and he won't even watch it on the Sunday Ticket. It's hard to believe that these two teams are this badly. And again, I don't know who on different ratings. Atlanta is like 29th or 30th worst team in the league. And of course, Miami's right there. Tua did not play badly last week. I saw it on tape. So I can't even blame him necessarily, although his backup is probably better, Brissett. Fred's passing on this one. And folks, if you have a strong thought on that, I'm sorry for you. There's no way you can have us. These teams are just horrible.
Well, take the easy way out. Why don't you? No play. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with the public here. I mean, whenever a team's favored at home and moves away from being favored at home to the underdog being the once underdog road team being favored by 2.5, I'm going to go with that public move. I think Atlanta's playing better on offense. I think they can outscore Miami, even though it is in Miami. And I do think that the trips to London and back disrupt everybody's teams. And not only for a week, but maybe for a couple of weeks. So I think maybe Atlanta's in the best position to catapult it forward with some promise. And the way the lines come out and the money's moved the Falcons' way, I'm going to lay the 2.5, take the Falcons, and seriously consider that as a contest play this week. So there you go. Somebody with an opinion on it, Fred. Next game up, let me take a deep look here. The Kansas City Chiefs, another road favorite, 5.5 points, opened at 3.5 points against the Tennessee Titans. Of course, the Titans coming off their big win over Buffalo. They did the same thing to Buffalo that Pittsburgh did. So the Titans go from a 3.5 point underdog to a 5.5 point underdog at home. It makes little sense to me because Kansas City has no defense.
No, I agree. And I found something out this week, early in the week, that I would have no idea. Since Ryan Tannehill has taken over as the Titans quarterback in 2019, they've played 16 games, and 6 games this year. It's 38 games. 9 times in the fourth quarter, he has led the team to victory. Now, somebody would have asked me on a radio show, which quarterback has led his team in 3 years to 9 victories in the fourth quarter? I might have guessed Aaron Rodgers. Under no circumstance would I have guessed Ryan Tannehill. 9 times, repeat that, folks, 9 times out of 38 games, he's led his team to victory in the fourth quarter. I'm taking the points.
That's an interesting statistic because I call him Granny Hill. I think he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, and he's lucky he has the running back to get him down the field so he can win these games. Anyway, they have a huge rushing game. I was so impressed with the Titans last week. I think they've turned it around. They played some tough defense. I'm going to say this about Kansas City. They're not going back to the Super Bowl. I mean, yes, Mahomes came through and pulled them out of the weeds last week on the road, but their defense is just lousy. And I think the Titans will do just what they did to Buffalo and just what you and I predicted last week, run the ball all day, keep it away from Mahomes, just like they did keep it away this last week. And they'll come away with the win here. I don't see the Chiefs being a 5.5-point favorite in this game. I think they'll be lucky to win. This will definitely be one of my contest picks. I'm taking the Titans plus the 5.5. Write it down, folks, because you're not going to get many of my contest picks on the air. Okay, moving on down the road. Let's see if we can find another interesting one. Have we talked about the Bengals and the Ravens? No. The Ravens are 7-point home favorites over the Bengals, who destroyed Detroit last week. And the Ravens have to be one of the top 5 teams in the league. Fred, home team, 7-point favorite. What's your take?
Last 4 times these teams have met, the Ravens have won by 137-36, 25 points per game. With that said, I'm taking the other side.
Wow.
I'm taking Burrow to cover the touchdown here. Again, I just think that he has turned into a top-notch quarterback. He found wide receiver Chase, who's, people may not know this, but he's one of the top 10 wide receivers in the league. He'll find some holes. I'll take the touchdown and assume that this will be a downside for the other side. So I'm taking the Bengals against Baltimore.
Well, I can see your thought process in that, and the Ravens at -7 just seems like the perfect number to me on this game. So I may take a pass on this one. I do want to tell the people out there that the total opened at 48. It's down to 46 right now. The Ravens haven't been scoring like they usually do. They've been kicking a lot of field goals, but Lamar is in the running for MVP. I can't see him losing this game. I'm going to have to see another game out of Cincinnati to see if they're coming along or not, because Detroit was no test whatsoever for them. So in this game, I'm going to pass. I'm going to take the Fred route out and pass on Baltimore Ravens. Okay, now here's another interesting game that's really got them psyched up here in Las Vegas. The Eagles are coming to town. The Raiders are 3-point favorites at home here after their demolition of Denver, which caught everybody off guard because the point spread went from 3 to 6 on that game, and Denver fell flat on their face. And I can tell you one thing about watching that Denver team, they don't have it.
Dennis, my great-great-great-grandfather, Brett Maverick, once told me, never go by a team's best performance or their worst performance. Last week, the Raiders, I guarantee you, had their best performance of the 16-game season. Eagles up and down. Fred would not bet a nickel on this game either way, because in reality, you got 2 bad teams. So Fred's taking another pass. And again, you can't judge any. All I'm saying, folks, is do not judge anything on one game. Let's see 5 or 6. And remember now, last week, the Raiders played a spectacular game. The week before, they played horribly. They're in between. They're not that high and they're not that low. Cars up and down, pass.
Well, the one thing we've said over and over again is so hard to get a handle on the Philadelphia Eagles that you just don't know what they're going to do. I'm going to continue to say the Las Vegas Raiders are hurt. They have a terrible offensive line. Both of their cornerbacks are out. And I have no idea how they won that game against Denver, only because of Denver's incompetence. That's the only way the Raiders won. Now, we went back to those wounded duck passes of Derek Carr's, and by God, he caught him, and he leads the NFL in yards gained passing. He's at the top of the league in yards gained passing, Derek Carr. Now, I don't believe he can continue to do that for the rest of the season. I think the defensive coordinators will catch up. I also think that maybe the team was a little pissed off and psyched up about their coach having to take a sabbatical, and maybe they were going to win one for him. I don't know. But I think the bigger problem was the Denver Broncos. They're poorly coached. They have no confidence. And their defense is not playing like I thought they would play, especially Von Miller. I think he might be over the hill. I hate to say it. He can make line of scrimmage tackles, but I don't know if he even had one sack last week. And that's when they needed him, was last week. So I'm with you on a tough game to call here. But if I had to make a selection in this one, I'm going to take the Eagles plus the 3 points. I don't know why. So there's your analysis, folks. You can take it from there. We've got 2 more games to take a look at, and they're the evening game on Sunday evening. The Indianapolis Colts at the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers opened 5.5 last week. Now they're down to 3.5 or 4. I look for them to land right on 4. So take it from there. 49ers -4 over the Colts.
This is Fred's game of the week. I think the Colts will not only cover, the Colts will win straight up. 49ers have a good defense, but nobody, if you saw Jonathan Taylor run in Wisconsin, and I have the Heisman vote, I think I voted him second or third his final season at Wisconsin. He is one of the top running backs in the National Football League. He really is. And Wentz has not been hurt for like 2 games. So I don't know if that means he's going to be hurt or maybe he's getting hurt. But he's played well the last 3 times. I think 6 touchdown passes the last 3 encounters. 49ers will be going back to Garoppolo, I believe, at this point. That's what they're saying, which is not necessarily a big positive. He's not a great quarterback. In my mind, he's a very good backup. I don't see him as a top-notch starter in the National Football League. Wentz versus Garoppolo, all things being equal, if Wentz could play 3 games in a row without getting hurt, he's a better quarterback. I'm taking the Colts straight up.
Love it. The 49ers have been underachievers all year. And I've noticed that the Colts have decided on offense to take the ball down the field. You know, I agree with you about the running back, and Wentz has decided, you know, if he's going to throw it and he's got the time to throw it, he's going to throw it down the field. And I think he will have the time to throw it against San Francisco. I really don't know why I had San Francisco overrated this year. Maybe it was the Garoppolo deal, but I agree with you. Garoppolo is nothing better than a backup quarterback there. And I like it, man. I will get plus 140 on the money line or plus 145. So I'm with you. Let's take the Indianapolis Colts to win the game straight up on Sunday night, and all you people can hit your bookies for a payout the next morning. All right. All right, let's head on to the Monday night game, and this will close it out for us this week, folks, and it's a good one. The New Orleans Saints on the road to take on the Seattle Seahawks. The week early line was the Saints 3.5-point road favorites, but after Seattle's game this week, they seem to think Saints are better yet. It's up to 5.5. So the Saints are 5.5-point road favorites at Seattle without Russell Wilson. We know Geno Smith will be the quarterback for Seattle. How do you see this one?
Geno Smith fumbled the ball and basically lost the close game last week. Top-notch athletes, and he is a top-notch athlete, have a way of coming back the week after. I don't see Seattle going 2-5. I'm sorry, even without Wilson. So, and New Orleans is nothing special. But let's assume that, you know, Winston's not a 5-touchdown quarterback every week as he threw in the first game. He's somewhere in between. Seattle's defense is pathetic. With that said, I'm still taking the 5.5 and the home underdog.
My opinion is exactly the same as yours. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to play this game on the money line. I don't see where New Orleans has progressed any. I thought they were much improved after the first few games of the year, but I'm not so sure of that. And Seattle is a tough home field place to play. And Geno Smith will control the ball. Hopefully he won't fumble this week. But even though he fumbled last week, they covered. You know, they covered. And that's the name of the game. I'm going to take Seattle here, and I'm going to play them on the money line. And I'm probably going to use them as a contest pick too, because I agree with you on them. It looks like our 2 best games, Fred, are the late games this week, Sunday and Monday night.
You know, and the networks have been very fortunate. I mean, most of them have been very exciting to the bitter end. I mean, you've had overtime games, you've had games that almost went to overtime, things like that. So first week, 6 weeks of the season, you can't complain about the Thursday, Sunday, or Monday night games at all. They're top notch.
Yeah, they're great. And what I like about them is they're get out games for people that lost early in the week, or they're profit games for people that won early in the week. But any way you look at it, you should be able to get out of the week with a payout, with these two games being the last ones of the week. And you and I agreeing on both of them. So before we go, I would like to give everybody my 888 number where you can contact me in the TSI network if you want any information about our hedge fund betting, about our selection process. If you need a platform to play on or whatever you need, give us a call at 888-604-6863. That's 888-604-6863. And somebody will answer the phone. If you have to leave a message, leave a message. But we'll get back to you and we'll explain our programs to you via the telephone, where it's a little bit easier than email. So also, before we go, I want to throw in a plug for the documentary, Now Place Your Bets, the history of sports betting in America. It still can be viewed on vimeo.com/nowplaceyourbets. And I really urge everyone to watch this. It'll give you a background on how sports betting got to where it is today. Fred, give us a go away goodbye, and we'll be off for the week.
I just wanted to say this about last week's Buffalo loss. A lot of people got down on McDermott, Sean McDermott, for going for the win versus going for the automatic field goal. I think he was 100% correct. The analytics would say you got a 6'4" quarterback in Josh Allen. The odds of him making a half a yard, probably 75%, 85% to make it. The play didn't work. Fine. That's not on the coach. He still did the correct thing. You're going to lose games like that, even though the odds were in your favor. I've learned that for many, many, many years since I was a kid. My dad taught me to play poker when I was 5 years of age. I understand these things. So don't get on the coach in that case. He did the right thing. And Josh Allen, by the way, before we go, nobody's playing any better than he is. I mean, he is a 6'4" guy that hurdles other guys to get a first down. His teammates but just love him. And the loss or not last week, this is a team that you got to think about as far as the Super Bowl, because they're very, very talented at wide receiver positions, and their running backs aren't great, but there's a couple of them, and Zach Moss certainly can break one now and then. So think about the Buffalo Bills the next 10 weeks or so.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Buffalo Bills. They're a fine team, and everybody's going to lose a game along the way. I mean, Arizona's the only one that has a chance to go undefeated at this point, right? And we've got a couple of teams that have a chance of not winning a game through the whole year. So we'll see. But usually there's something in the win column and something in the loss column for every team by the end of the season. So I want to thank everybody for viewing. And listening to us. I want to thank the Revolver podcast people for putting us out there. I want to thank our sponsor, mybookie.ag. And we'll be back again next week. Hopefully, Trip Mitchell will be able to join us and guide us through these games. We missed you, Trip. But until next week, goodbye and good luck.
Now Place Your Bets, the world's #1 sports betting film, is now available on DVD. Produced by Dennis Tobler, this Indie Film Fest winner has reached the top of the documentary list. Order your DVD today at www.nowplaceyourbets.com or stream from Vimeo today anytime. Now Place Your Bets. Watch it today.
Thank you for listening to Football Forecast Weekly, an affiliate of TSI Network.